Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to this week's vlog. Hope everyone is having a good week. So I've been working on recently the 100 Days of Summer series, just trying to stretch myself and learn a little bit more about oil painting. And one thing that I really like about art is the challenge of putting restrictions on myself. So I work with a very limited palette: yellow, red, blue, white, and brown. This week I'm challenging myself in this 100 Days of Summer series is to complete a painting in 100 strokes. So just 100 strokes, being very deliberate, not a lot of blending, not a lot of moving stuff around, just putting the stroke down there and seeing what happens. Yeah, here we go. Alright, so what I did is I made this little chart. And there's 21 boxes in here, so every time I do a stroke I'll put a dot, and each box will have 5 dots. And once this is all filled, if I don't do this one, this will be 100 strokes. So this is how I'm going to keep track of it. Starting this 100 stroke challenge, I started with my flesh tones and was really deliberate about trying to mix all my colors as accurate as possible right from the start. Alright, so I have the flesh tones kind of mixed up here, and I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps, different shades of the flesh tones, and so I'm going to start there and start laying in the color and see if I can get this done in under 100 strokes. So starting off, the first handful of strokes were, I used up a lot of strokes right from the beginning, just laying in kind of the different flesh tones that I was using here. And I started with the shadow tones, moving to the lighter tones. I knew that the hands and some of the details weren't going to come out with very much detail because of the limitation of the strokes. So for this challenge, I maybe should have started with maybe a landscape, but I think it turned out okay. You know, it's definitely an impressionistic style. We're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 5. We're about 40 strokes in, and I don't know if I'm halfway done. Proving to be a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. So here what I'm doing is mixing up the colors for the dress. I took the remaining flesh color I had and started mixing some blues and reds into it to give it kind of a purple feel, and I wanted it to be reflecting the blue sky, so it's not just white, so it's that reflection. So that's why I added the blue in, and then the red was to add a little warmth to the shadow areas. I slowed the video down here so you could see how deliberate I was being with each brush stroke. Each brush stroke I counted as when the brush touched the canvas to when it left. Having to think about each stroke was like when we had film in a camera. You only have 24 shots and you better make them good. We're at 12 times 6 and 12 times 5. 70 strokes. I have 30 strokes left. I might make it. I'm hoping to try to leave like 15 strokes at the end to like add just like some shadows and highlights, but I don't know, it might work. Like I said, the idea of adding restrictions to the art is just kind of a fun challenge. I don't know, I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of like philosophy to that, but you know, you look at like a 3-piece rock band, or the limitations of recording on albums like Dark Side of the Moon or Sgt. Pepper's. You know, they were limited, and it made you be more creative to solve the solution to create what you wanted to create. I think if you have too many options, too many colors, too many brushes, too many guitars and synthesizers, it limits the creativity that happens in the art. So I'm finally reaching the point, I think, with these 100 Days of Summer paintings where I'm kind of, the goal was to really, one, to learn to oil paint, but the second goal was really to just kind of push myself to start exploring different things.
and I feel like the last 60 paintings I've been doing for 100 Days of Summer have been pretty consistent in style, but I think now starting to add some of these restrictions and force myself to think differently is going to be really exciting to see what the rest of the 100 Days of Summer series does to stretch me as an artist. Alright, so I have about 24 more strokes left from the 100 strokes, and I'm getting really close to being done. My goal is to take about 6 strokes on the guitar, rough that in, and then that leaves me about 14 more strokes for some shadow and highlight detail stuff. But what is the last thing an artist hears before he ruins a painting? Let me just try this. So the 100 stroke challenge is removing that. Let me just try this. I'm laying in the color, mixing the color, using fat brushes, and let's see what happens. I'm gonna say that this doesn't count as a stroke because I'm actually cutting the paint off to make the guitar strings. So I feel like I can make up my own rules.
So now we're in probably the last 10 or 12 strokes of this painting, and just kind of touching up some shadows and highlight areas and adding some form that might have been taken out while painting the background. But this was a super fun experiment, and I think the next couple paintings I do, I'm going to limit myself to the 100 strokes. So this painting was based off a photograph that Pete Smith's Surf Shop posted that I just thought was super cool. And what is even cooler is that the parents of the girl who's in the painting was who ended up buying it. So I'm glad they are able to be hanging this on their wall.